It's time for Social Women with your hosts, Pat Cruz, Amy Diaz, and Bronwyn Dannenfelser.
Welcome back to the second hour of Social Women. I'm your co-host, Pat Cruz. Our toll-free number is 855-252-2020. And we're here in our second half, welcoming owner of the Savory Grape, among many, many other attributes to her resume, Jessica Granatiero. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you guys. It's
We're
very
so
excited
you're here.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
We love wine.
We love wine. I was telling the girls earlier that I have a collection of about 40 plus bottles in my house right now that I could just
Excellent. We love that.
I can't just have them all by myself.
Well, besides, do I not do that every show? Besides Savory Grape, you have so many things. Just give us a little rundown about you.
Well, I started the Savory Grape in 2006, and wine was not my background. I did an entire career change. I was in the marketing world for a long time, and actually I got my master's in clinical child psychology and was doing my PhD in that. And I met my husband and said, I'm going to take a little sabbatical on the psychology route and moved to Rhode Island. I was living in DC, and so I moved here. And that was something I had always loved, wine. He and I both love wine, and we had collected. So one day we were driving, and we said, let's open a wine shop one day. And it wasn't just let's open a wine shop. There was nothing around that we felt was a boutique yes. place where you could learn about wine and a lot of education, not just about the beverage itself, but about the region and craft brews and spirits. And so we said, let's go for it, because we had traveled, and where I had lived in D.C., there were a lot of these little places around, and he had lived in Europe, and there were a lot of little boutique places around there, so hence the Savory Grape was born.
And which is a beautiful spot, by the way, in East Greenwich. I don't know if you haven't taken a ride by there to check it out, you really need to, because it's a fabulous
It's so
fabulous
spot.
A
few of my bottles are actually from there. It's an organic wine that comes from Chile, a red wine that I never know the name. I was walking, I'm like, the organic one from Chile, and they're like, okay, and they just walk me over to where it is, and I grab a couple of bottles.
Well, I remember when I met Jess, you were doing a presentation at the American Heart Association and saying why red wine was good for ladies and good for our hearts.
Health, yes.
Yeah, so what is it that makes that red wine so good for our hearts?
It's interesting. I'm going to be doing not the same talk, but a similar talk.
Bronwyn, why ask why? If they say it's good for you, just be quiet. What you were saying?
I'm actually going to be doing a similar talk this coming February at the American Heart Association's Red Heart Luncheon in February.
You were just named the yes.
Sorry.
What were you weren't you just given an award by them?
From
American Heart?
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the American Heart. I was given an award by the...
And that is why red wine is healthy.
I promise I have not had any today. By the Providence Business News.
Providence Business News, we have that.
Yes.
40 under 40.
And
yes, and what was the other one? Did you
Gosh.
just receive another one?
I think we're just going to give you an award from
Yes,
the
we are.
association.
Sorry, I would like to have another award.
That's
Yes.
fine.
I'm drawing a blank. I'm so
No,
sorry.
That's fine. So tell us about
but
red
anyway,
wine.
red wine. So there, red wine is. I'm not a researcher in that field, but it is known that red wine is better for heart health. There are more components in the skins of red wine, which is how wine becomes red, because the actual juice of the wine is soaked with the skin. So if you take any grape and we're actually to press out the juice, except for maybe 10 grapes and the thousands that there are, all the juice is clear. So if you actually got a red grape from the grocery store, all the juice is clear. But what happens with red wine is the wine is actually fermented with the skins of the grapes. And that's where the components called flavonoids are that are good for heart health. So there are actually certain wines, too, that are found to be better. Red wine's found to be better for heart health. So I know there are some customers that come in and say that their physician actually has prescribed to them to drink 1 glass of red wine a night.
I would make out very well with that.
Pat has a smile on her face right now, stretched from ear to ear. But so what is the best red wine then? Because there's all these...
Merlot is a good one. Another one called Petite Syrah and red zin. Those are 3 that have been found to have a very high level of flavonoids in the skins of the grapes. But that research, it's only been, I think, being conducted for the last 10 years, this particular research, or maybe even 12 years on red wine and heart health.
Well,
it's so exciting. Yeah, same here. Same here. I'm like, hey, I'm 27. If you tell me that drinking red wine every day is going to help, it's going to make it help, and it will help. It definitely will help. But help me live a longer life, I am doing it.
It's good for you.
So, a woman entrepreneur, give us a few little tips. How'd you get started in what you're doing? And you're all about women stuff, so give us a little rundown.
And you know
too.
what? It's interesting that you said there was a career change. We were talking to Mary earlier, and she changed her career. It is a passion. Yeah. You said that you and your husband love wine, and what was the risk?
It's interesting because, and I hear this, and going in with your question about what are your tips or recommendations for others, there was a risk in that, okay, if it didn't succeed, we lost a lot of money because no one gave us money to do this. This was loans that we took out and our personal money that we did to make this happen. So the risk was, okay, if it doesn't work out, what happens? I go back to my previous career. But having a passion that you're so excited about, or something that you're so excited about, and making it happen as a business is incredible. And, from what I hear, you have an MBA, my husband has an MBA as well. So it wasn't like we just haphazardly went in there and said, okay, we like wine, let's just throw up a store, and this is what we want. I mean, from everything from the marketing of it to how we position it to the branding, we came up with a plan. It took us a year to come up with a plan. And then once we came up with a plan and said, okay, yeah, we think this can work. We looked at the demographic, where it's located. We did all this research. So it was taking the passion, but combining it with very thorough research and education about what we wanted to do. So that would, to answer that question, but also to answer your question. And, what are some of the tips? I always tell people you have to be prepared, and you can have your passion, whether it's clothing or designing, but make sure there's a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
And there obviously is where you are.
I think so.
There's the Savory Grape. So, it's been very successful. I see Savory Grape. The branding is phenomenal.
Thank you.
By the way, it really is. The marketing that you do, and we know, this is just not the average wine store or liquor store. This is a boutique shop where you can go in and learn about what you need to do, and I think that's important. And I think that even for women, we don't think about it. I like to learn about wine, and I think a lot of women do, but they're a little, timid about it because they don't know anything about what to do, or there's so many fabulous wine tastings that go on here, and they don't know what to do with that as well. So,
I think it's a very intimidating environment because the majority of people, and I'm just talking about all of us, the average person, they know what they like. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to describe wine because all of our palates, our sensitivities, what we taste and smell is different. So what you could explain and tell me what you like and what I interpret that as could be completely two different things.
We were just discussing this over the break. It's really nice to see a woman being recognized for your knowledge of wine. And, we were talking about that. It's sometimes considered one of the old boys' games, kind of like cigars or cognac. How could a woman know so much about wine?
Or we were just talking about earlier with the wine club, it's all men. Pat, you were mentioning your dad, it's involved in it, and no ladies allowed. And it's like, you know what? Forget you.
That's because they're naked stamping the grapes.
I don't want to be part of that, but...
No.
But you know what? Now I think this means, Jess, that we need to make something down to the Savory Grape, which is a women's only wine club. We could do wine tastings.
Hey, that's a great idea.
But you do have wine tastings.
Mm-hmm. We do.
And services.
Tell us about the wine tasting, and tell us about some of the programs that you have there, because I know you've got some great programs.
We do, and everything goes back to the idea of education and helping people learn about wine, making it non-intimidating. We do weekly in-store wine tastings on Fridays and Saturdays that are complimentary, and we showcase usually 3 or 4 different wines, and they're always different. And whether we recognize a region from Chile to Argentina, or a particular grape that no one has ever heard of, like Pinot Bianco. I mean, that isn't so obscure, but Kerner, or just something different. Or maybe we compare Napa Cabs one week, or maybe we look at all wines under $15, or we do a blind tasting, which is always really fun. So we have those at the shop. We also do wine classes that are open to the public, and those are complimentary as well. Those are free, and we usually do those once a month. And educating, we usually do have a specific theme for those, whether last month, what did we do? I think Willamette Valley in Oregon. So we compared different Pinot Noirs and Pinot Gris from the Willamette Valley. So, and then the other thing that we do, which is great, is we have wine dinners with Sienna Restaurant and also Gracie's Restaurant. So that's a great way where we pair different wines with the different courses. We work with their chefs and educate people on wine and food and how they work well together.
Well, because they go hand in hand, essentially.
They do.
Right? A good glass of wine gets enhanced by something to eat, or it's kind of vice versa.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, what happens more so in Europe than in our country, but we have seen it happen a lot more so in the last 10 to 15 years, is there's this cultural aspect of wine. And in Europe, it is an integral part of the dinner.
Lifestyle.
My husband is Italian. His parents are Italian. They drank wine every single day, a glass with dinner. And you see that everywhere. So it's not about drinking a lot. It's not about overindulgence. It's truly a cultural thing about how wine and food pair together. And we are actually seeing that more happening in the U.S.
It's that way in my family as well. So, I mean, there isn't, Christmas was Sunday, and that is the way it is. We have homemade bottles of wine on the table, and it's not about overindulging.
Mm-mm.
It's just about enjoying that piece of something that goes along with dinner together. It's that little,
Absolutely.
bonding family time over a glass of wine.
So, do we have time to talk about a couple of favorites?
Yes. Well,
Yeah?
we do.
Oh,
Yeah, just give us two quickie favorites,
Yeah.
because I hear some music coming on.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about really quick the holidays coming up too. One of our favorites is always sparkling wine, and we love a sparkling rosé made from Cabernet Franc, so that's one in particular. I also, Pinot Noir is one of my favorite wines. It's a red wine, and it's a great food pairing wine too, and not too heavy.
That's one of my favorites.
Well, Jessica,
as well.
how can our viewers get in touch with you?
They can visit our website, which is www.thesavorygrape.com. Anytime. We also have a Facebook page, The Savory Grape Wine Shop. We have a blog, which is swirlsipsavor.com. And you can always access me via email, which is jessica@thesavorygrape.com.
We loved having you here.
Thank you. I loved being here.